Good day everyone, so before we begin, do note that this video is spoiler free from any of the stories in Natlan. Enjoy. Natlan is here, and in this first impressions video we'll quickly talk a bit about everything that is going on and perhaps some things that I think a lot of you can appreciate. So just from the get-go we can see that Natlan is incredibly vibrant, and yet with the choice of geometry and perhaps like softer like colors, perhaps like a bit of washing out of colors, you get quite a different and unique dynamic for the area, which is just incredibly refreshing, together with obviously some of the like extreme verticality of Leeway, the open plains that we saw in Fontaine, and some of the forest areas and mechanics from Sumeru. This place is definitely quite unique and feels incredibly fresh. So for anyone looking at Natlan, this is, I think, the first thing that you'll realize is that this place feels like the burnout has been taken away and the flame for adventuring in Genshin is back. So that is my initial impressions. When it comes to the overall theming of Natlan, one of the things that the developers spoke about is the idea of movement, and to be honest, I actually like how it was implemented. So on land, someone like Mulani, which is much better suited to water, will have an exploration disadvantage. You can see her fire goes out a lot quicker, but on the flip side of it, when it comes to traversal specifically on water, with that condition being that this body of water can only be in Natlan, she is like peerless. You can see we can surf for an incredibly long time, and this is the type of exploration that I really enjoy, something where you have an advantage but in other places you've got the disadvantage. And I think if Genshin had implemented Farina in the same way, where on Fontaine she could walk permanently on water and otherwise not, then it would have been much healthier for the game, and then you could have like your more generalist Ayaka, Mona, Kokomi being able to walk on water everywhere, but obviously there would be then the caveat that that wouldn't be as good as a specialist. In any case, one of the unique features in Natlan is for you to be able to quick swap into characters, and I miserably failed this whilst recording in the background, as you can see. But how things are supposed to go is whether you're on a body of water, for instance like here, you can see we're going to swap to Mualani right when we need to. This is a feature that is present whether you are climbing on the rocks or surfing and so on, and I think it is a nice fun exploration mechanic. It was obviously foreshadowed when we had Chiori's kit, where you could swap in another character, so it was kind of interesting to see how Hoyo actually brought that little bit of foreshadowing to this region. Overall, I'm much happier about this region in that the Natlan mechanics don't seem to give you too much of an overwhelming advantage like the Fontaine Numa mechanics. And what I mean by this is that what I've seen so far is that things feel a lot more fair, whereas with Ocean Numa you hit an enemy and you completely disable them. Whereas here it's more like, yeah, you're gonna have to use the Natlan characters, but you don't get it for free. Even the enemies themselves have a meter, so you're still gonna have to expend those skills to get it. And that, I think, is much fairer when it comes to the game balance, and it solves a lot of the complaints I had originally about Fontaine and so on. So that is definitely a big plus for Natlan. I think respecting your older units and what they could have done and the environments outside of Natlan, and then balancing that out with exploration, is a good thing. Although in a certain sense, if you look at the sheer verticality of cliffs here in Natlan, it is a bit, I'll be honest, a bit tedious to climb with it. So if you're going to use Kachina, you can see rock climbing is incredibly fun. But on the other hand, it also means that when it comes to, especially if you're at a very high world level and adventure rank, it also means that you're going to have to build a proper Kachina so that she can also be on your adventure. Because you don't want to be stuck at world level 9 with level 100 enemies and a level 20 Kachina just because it's going to be convenient to use her for exploration. But if you don't use it for exploration, it's really tough because these vertical cliffs are not friendly unless you're using someone like Kirara or Wanderer. But in any case, I do feel like if someone doesn't really like Kachina and you're not someone that wants to pick up Mualani for whatever reason, let's say you wanted Emily in the previous patch, then yeah, the exploration benefit and I think the dynamic environment of Natlan is probably going to feel very, very frustrating because this is supposed to be a movement based area, and you can see unfortunately with Kachina, because she's a rock climbing specialist, she also kind of like loses out quite a bit when it comes to traversal on land, in which case you can just go back to the usual Sayu and Yelon, and if you don't have those characters, then traversing in Natlan becomes a bit of a slog. So on the one hand, I do get that there is the need to bring out a new region, but on the other hand, it feels like there is not enough characters releasing. It's almost like you wanted to give people, in all truth, a free Mualani, a free Kinich, a free Kachina would have been perhaps, I think, a decent way to do it, just so that everyone can actually have a fair shot at the exploration and not have it be gacha gated. It's like I've said, even if you are thinking that it's fair to get someone like Kachina, unfortunately Kachina means that you're going to have to raise her, otherwise you're going to have to constantly swap in and out, and I can imagine for more casual players this might be frustrating. But that would really be it from the complaints department. I do think as we get more and more units in Natlan, it's going to be an issue that will be resolved for more and more players, but it is something to keep an eye out on. And I do think this is where Genshin can typically do a better job of perhaps saying, hey guys, let's test this, and hey, 100 of our 50, or let's say 50 of the 100 testers play Natlan without any of the region's mechanic and tell us all about the pain points that someone might experience. I think that could be a much fairer way Hoya would do this, because I could bet you that the whole goal of them doing their internal testing is to test this region and to see how much people can have fun and what are the pain points to the new characters, rather than testing what are the pain points if you don't want to use the new characters and how the region could perhaps take away from that. And obviously we have tried to solve this using the Saurian mechanic, and you can have the different pets and so on, but honestly so far I haven't really found a compelling use other than trying to solve overworld puzzles for the pets, so it's more of a novelty item, but that's at least my impressions for now. In any case, so from a combat perspective, Natlan seems to have some pretty strong units, so we'll see how things evolve, and I do want to keep in line with what I said in my previous video. If you're going to save up for the Archon, because if Mualani is as busted as she is now, then I do think that perhaps future characters like the little leopard girl Xylonin and Mavuika, they could potentially have some very strong support capabilities, but I won't say much more than that. Alright guys, that's it for this first impression video, and would you look at that, we just hit the 8-minute mark for some ads on the channel. Okay, I'm sorry, it's just, yeah, the YouTubers and their ways of stalling. Who knew? Alright, keep well, cheers.